Lieutenant Maya Okonkwo had always been the quietest member of the Meridian's crew. While others argued over ration distribution or debated the ethics of their mission to terraform Kepler for 42b, she sat in the observation deck, watching stars blur past in streams of light. She preferred silence. She thrived in it. But silence, as the crew would soon learn, was not the same as weakness. The trouble began 3 weeks into their journey when Commander Hayes decided Maya's psych evaluation scores were concerning. He called a mandatory meeting in the briefing room, gathering all 12 crew members around the circular table. Maya arrived last, her boots barely making a sound against the metal floor. "We need to talk about team cohesion," Hayes announced, his voice carrying that particular blend of authority and condescension that Maya had grown to despise. "Some of us aren't pulling our weight emotionally. We're a family out here, and families communicate." Maya knew exactly who he meant. She'd seen the reports he'd filed, read between the lines of his observations. Withdrawn. Unresponsive to group activities. Potentially unstable. "I'm not in the fight mood," Maya said quietly, her dark eyes fixed on the table's surface. Hayes laughed, a sharp, dismissive bark. "This isn't about mood, Lieutenant. This is about the mission. We need everyone engaged, present, ready to contribute to difficult conversations." "I contribute," Maya replied, her voice still soft. "I run diagnostics on the quantum drive. I maintain the life support systems. I do my job." "That's not what I mean, and you know it." Hayes leaned forward, and the others watched with varying degrees of discomfort. Engineer Ramos shifted in his seat. Pilot Torres studied her fingernails. "We need you to participate in team building. In conflict resolution sessions. I said I'm not in the fight mood." Something in Maya's tone should have warned them. It was the same tone a star gives before it collapses into a black hole, quiet, dense, final. But Hayes pressed on, and the others, emboldened by his authority or perhaps just bored, joined in. "You can't just opt out of being human," said xenobiologist Kim. "We're trying to help you," added Medical Officer Patel. "You're being selfish," Ramos concluded. Maya stood slowly. She looked at each of them in turn, and for just a moment, something flickered behind her eyes, something vast and old and utterly alien. "I warned you," she whispered. Then she touched the silver implant behind her ear, the one they'd all assumed was standard-issue neural interface tech, and the Meridian fell silent. Not the silence of empty space. Not the silence of sleeping quarters or hushed conversations. This was absolute silence. Total. Complete. The kind of silence that existed before the universe learned to scream. Commander Hayes opened his mouth to shout orders, but no sound emerged. Torres grabbed her throat in panic, trying to force words out. Kim pounded on the table, creating no vibration, no noise, nothing. Even the ship's ambient hum, the eternal background symphony of recycled air and electronic systems, had vanished. Maya walked toward the door, and as she passed each crew member, they felt it, the weight of true quiet pressing against their eardrums, seeping into their thoughts, drowning the constant internal monologue that defined human consciousness. They couldn't speak. They couldn't think in words. They could only feel the vast, terrifying emptiness that Maya had lived with every day since her transformation. She paused at the threshold and turned back. Her lips moved, and somehow, impossibly, they heard her, not with their ears, but directly in their minds. "I am a listener. One of 700 in the galaxy. We maintain the silence between stars, the quiet spaces where thought becomes signal becomes meaning. You asked me to fight. To argue. To fill the void with noise." She tilted her head, almost sympathetic. "Now you understand why I prefer not to." The door sealed behind her with no sound at all. In the briefing room, 12 people sat frozen, drowning in silence, finally understanding what they demanded she break. Commander Hayes tried to scream. His mouth opened wide. Nothing came out. And in the observation deck, Maya Okonkwo returned to watching the stars, grateful once again for the beautiful, terrible silence that defined her existence.